Hey, welcome to NibblenFlix, the podcast where snacks meet cinema, and we treat from everything from buttery popcorn to box office buzz. I'm your host, Jeff Fried. Hit the like button to help us get more eyes on our video. And also, if you're not subscribed, make sure you subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you are alerted when we upload new content on the channel. And in this video, we're going to be munching on the movie Nobody 2. Was it good as the first one? Let's get into it. Starring in this movie is Bob Odenkirk as Hutch, a former government assassin known as Nobody. Connie Harrison plays his wife Becca. Riza plays Harry, his younger adopted brother. Christopher Lloyd plays his father Dave, and also he's a retired FBI agent. And Sharon Stone plays Ladina, the mastermind behind a bootlegging operation. The plot of this movie is a workaholic assassin, Hutch Mansell, takes his family on a much-needed vacation to a small tourist town called Plummersville. However, he soon finds himself in the crosshairs of a corrupted theme park operator, a shady sheriff, and a bloodthirsty crime boss. So I was a fan of the first Nobody film, and I thought it was a very good film. No one really knew about it when it came into theaters. Only the theaters for a little bit because it was during the pandemic era. Once it hit streaming, it became more of a hit. And I think it became a hit because the shock value of seeing Hutch, who's like a nice family guy. That, you don't see this person really as someone who can do action or can fight at all. And it turns out that he's a former government assassin. And it has some nice, cool John Wick elements to it as well. And also the comedy that it had in the film was good as too. And it was just something that I felt like a lot of people were just basically captivated on because it was, like I said, for the shock value of seeing this individual able to do fight moves and do all this crazy stuff that you don't think he can do. Like I said, never judge a book by its cover, and this is definitely what Hutch is in this film. So, let's get into a little bit. If you never watched our films before, we break it down in 3 segments. We do it in the good, the bad, and the final verdict. So, with all that, does Nobody 2 match up to the first film? Good. So the good about this film that it still has the beats of the original film. It has the heart, has the comedy with the one-liners, and the action is really good. The film knows what it's doing. It knows it's a popcorn film. The story is very thin. There's no really meat to the bone for it at all, but the movie is really meant to entertain you, and that's what it does here. When it comes to the action, it still has the John Wick elements to it, and it's really good. The set pieces here in this film that you actually see one of them in the trailer, which is the boat scene, which is really, really good. I thought that was a very good action piece as well. And there's some gore in this film too, but it's not really used to show you, hey, we're trying to be gory here. It's more used as a comedy element as well to bring down the situation from serious to funny. And there's some really gory stuff in this film. Not over the top, but some stuff is oh man, that's a tough injury. But it does a good job using those elements of gore into comedy. And like I said, this film knows what it's doing. It knows it has a very thin plot line. It knows it's just basically a popcorn film. And I feel like the film does a great job doing it. So this film has a lot of heart into it, and they make the characters very likable. They do start off with Becca's and Hutch's son as that typical annoying teenager, but they get away from that very quickly, thank goodness, because I hate seeing that trope for teenagers. However, Bob Odenkirk does a great job playing Hutch again, and it's good to see him actually doing something like this type of movie that has action after he suffered a heart attack on a Better Call Saul set. But he looked great here. He's in great shape, and I'm not sure he did all the stunts in the film. They did a great job if they did hide some of the stunt men, but you actually see his face in majority of the fight scene, so it seemed like he actually did majority of the stunts, and he looked great. Like I said, this is his character. He plays him very well, and I thought he did an amazing job. Like I said earlier about the boat scene, you see the boat scene, and that scene is absolutely great, and is probably one of the highest moments of this film. And I think that's one of the things that's going to draw you to this film is actually Bob Odenkirk playing Hutch. And if you like him in the first film, you're going to like him in this one too. Connie Nielsen does great as Hutch's wife, Becca. And she also has some badass moments too. It's really cool to see her getting involved in action as well. And she's always a pleasure to watch, and I'm happy to see that she's still trying to do movies like this where she can show that she's the heart of the film, but then she could turn to the badass out of nowhere. That's what she is. Like I said, she's always a pleasure to watch on screen. And finally, the other secondary characters, I felt like Reza and Christopher Lloyd, their characters was there. They were good, but it felt like more they were there for the third act, and it was done effectively. But you can tell that they were only used for the third act, kind of like the first film. But hey, if it's not broke, don't fix it. The bad. So the bad about this film is not really bad. It's more like a disappointment. Now Sharon Stone's character, Ladina, and I felt like it was something they were trying to do, and it started off really good. At first, when she first got on the screen, I liked her a lot. I was like, oh man, this character is menacing. She's a threat. She's crazy. She's psychotic. She's, just something that you gotta fear. Basically, you gotta fear Hutch for. Maybe this character might be too much for Hutch, and that's what they kind of introduce her to be. And then once it gets more into the film, she doesn't have a lot of scenes either. I think that maybe that's also hurt the character, because she's very one-note character. But by the time you get to the end of the film, she's a full-on cartoon character. She's like a mustache-twirling villain, and sometimes it's off-putting. And there's scenes that is very random that she does in the film. And one of them is like this small little dance routine that she does. I don't know if she wanted it or the director wanted that Sam Rockwell dance routine. In this movie, but it was kind of off-putting because it was like they were talking about her, but she was doing this dance, and I was like, that's not maybe making her look like as a threat, making her look as some silly person who's just crazy. But if they would have introduced her that way, I think when you see that the dance routine later, you're kind of like, okay, well, that's her. She's psycho. She lost all her marbles and she don't give a damn. And that could be maybe what they were going for. Maybe that was on the cutting room floor. It just didn't work for me. And finally, the last thing I would complain about this film is the last action piece of the film, like the finale of the film. They were at this amusement park, and there you actually see the characters setting up these booby traps, all these devices and stuff like that. It actually took time for you to see them actually doing this. And once the bad guys came, it felt like a letdown. It was fun to watch, but I felt like they could have leaned more into the devices and the traps and the booby traps and all that stuff. I mean, it's a movie already showing like gore and blood and all that stuff. It was would have been cool if they just went full out Home Alone, but just with the gore and craziness going on. And I felt like they left a lot on the table of what they could have done, and that was kind of like a letdown. And I was kind of disappointed at that. So I was kind of getting hyped when I saw it. I was like, oh man, this is going to be like Home Alone. It's going to be great, but Home Alone for adults. Let's do this. I want to see some guts and limbs flying everywhere. You get some of that, but not to the extent I was hoping, and that was kind of disappointment. But like I said, it's not really that bad. It's more of a disappointment. It was fun to watch. I just wish they would have leaned more into the craziness, what they could have done in that scene. The final verdict. So the final verdict of this film, I'm going to score this film 3.5 snacks. I have never done that before. I have to say, this film is very fun to watch. So you know what you get into when you see these kind of films. The film knows what it's trying to do. It knows it's a popcorn film. They know the plot is thin, but they make likable characters. The action is good, and they use the gore and all that stuff to use for comedy. And when you bring all that stuff together, it is a very fun movie to watch. It's very enjoyable to watch. However, I felt like they left some good stuff on the table. Like I said before, in the bad, Sharon Stone feels like she could have been more. Even though she could have been that one-note villain or character, that's fine. They show her the consistency of that character, where you can see her just being her and not seeing random scenes where you're introducing like new elements to the character that's kind of off-putting, and you lose that luster of that psycho crazy villain. And like I said before, if they would have shown her dancing in the beginning or do something outrageous, something like that, then you could have said, okay, I could see her later on in the film doing like a dance routine, and that would have worked. But they didn't do that. They introduced her as this complete psycho, and I felt like they would have done a better job of introducing the character and using her where she has so much limited screen time. This is show that what kind of person she is, and then once you see the randomness of her, it fits the character. And the last thing is the finale of the film, the music park. When you see that, I'm sure some people thought Home Alone 2, but I was hoping we would finally get like Home Alone for adults. We didn't get it, but you know, it's more like a nitpick and a more disappointment, but it's not bad. But yeah, I thought the film was good. It's not gonna be one of the best films of the year, but it did what it had to do, and it was entertaining me for about 2 hours, and that's what I wanted. So let me know, guys. Let me know if you've seen this film, and if you're going to plan on this film, and if you did see this film, let me know in the comment section. You know, do you agree with what I say or disagree with how I feel? Let me know in the comment section below. And I want to say thank you for watching. And, you know, as always, you know, you got to keep munching, you keep watching, and keep it real. And I'll see you in the next video. Take care, goodbye, and have a great day.